In the last video, we talked about purchasing a web hosting provider. In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up your local machine to run a website. This is really only for development and testing purposes. Although it is possible to post your website to the web on your local computer, there's a lot of factors that play in that you really don't want to do. For instance, you'll have to leave your computer on all the time. Secondly, you really would need a dedicated IP address from your internet service provider. The reason for this is because most service providers give you a dynamic IP address, meaning that it changes constantly. So your website would constantly go down. And the third thing is upload speed. Most personal website or internet service providers don't give you a high upload speed. When you're hosting a website and users download content from that website, you will actually be using your upload speed to upload the content to them. But this is a great solution to be able to test and manage a website offline. One of the great benefits here is if you have a live website, you don't want to be constantly changing it because you have live users on that website. But if you run a web server locally, you can make all those changes and see how the website interacts and how it works before you upload it using FileZilla. Here we're going to cover the LAMP, XAMP, and WAMP server options. You can install a web server locally, and it takes a lot more time because you have to install Apache, MySQL, and PHP individually on your system. If you're running Windows, you can supplement Apache with ISS. We are actually not going to cover this advanced version of server installing, just because most people taking this course won't need to actually install a dedicated web server. So here's the websites, and I'll publish them in the course descriptions. You see wampserver.com/en, and we are actually going to do this on a Windows machine here in a second. The Zamp server for Apple, and I'll show you an example of this that's already installed on an Apple system. And the LAMP server. This is for Linux distributions. So LAMP is for Linux, XAMP is for X or Apple, and WAMP is for Windows. So let's go ahead and take a look at the XAMP server install that I've already done. Once you install the XAMP server, you'll see this icon down here with a little X on it called XAMP Control. You can turn these elements on or off as needed. Of course, you'll have to have administrative access. And that's basically it. You can go ahead and start working on the server. This is so much easier than having to install these individual items separately. If you go to Applications, you'll notice you have a XAMP folder in there. Inside the XAMP folder, you're going to have htdocs. This is the root of your website, so anything you put in here is actually what your website sees. We call this localhost. So if we bring up a browser and we go to localhost, this is showing the index.php file right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the index.php file on my local machine here. I'm remotely connected to it. And we're just going to change this. And just for fun, we'll put a little bit of HTML in it and make that install bold. Alright. On my Mac, I'm going to click Command S, and I'm going to click Command Shift U. It'll ask me if I want to put dependent files. In this case, I'm going to say no. And there are no dependent files. On the Windows, I believe it's very similar. I believe you just do Control S to save and then Control Shift U to update to the remote server. Alright, so coming back here, we'll check our local host. And you can see it's been updated and the install is bold. So it's that simple to update your website on the local system. So let's install WAMP on a Windows machine now. I'm just going to go ahead and download WAMP. Here I have the option for 32 or 64-bit. Well, I know I'm running on a 64-bit system. I can tell that by right-clicking on Computer, go to Properties, and you can see right here I'm running Windows 64-bit. I'm going to click here where it says Download Directly. Now that the download's complete, I'm just going to run that program. I just take the defaults here. Notice where it's being installed. In this case, it's C:\WAMP. You can change that if you want. I would typically create a quick launch icon and maybe a desktop icon. Here it's wanting me to choose my default browser. You can choose Internet Explorer or Firefox or Google Chrome. I'm just going to go ahead and accept the default here and just say open. In this case, we're going to leave this the same as localhost. And you can put your email here if you want. I'm just going to leave it blank. And then we'll launch the web server now. Next, click on your taskbar on the little arrow here, and you'll notice the WAMP server icon. If we click it, we have all the WAMP server options. You'll notice that those options are a little bit different than what we had with the Mac. Here you can start and stop services, restart your services, or have access directly to your MySQL console, PHP options, such as your PHP INI that we'll talk about later, Apache options. We can access the root directory right here, or access PHP-MyAdmin. PHP-MyAdmin is basically a MySQL database management system. We'll get into that later in the course. Where you see localhost will essentially show you the local website. This will be the same as going to a browser on the computer and typing http://localhost. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull up the browser on my Mac. And I'm going to go to my machine name. So http://w7-tech. Notice it says forbidden. You do not have permissions to access the server. Coming back to my Windows machine, you want to make sure to click this, and that puts it online for your local network. So we'll go back to my Mac, refresh my browser, and now I can access the system. Keep in mind that this is not publishing the website to the internet. It's only accessible via your local network, so other machines on your network. If you want to edit files on your site, just go to the www directory. If I click back one directory to WAMP, I can see our root directory. The www is the same directory as what htdocs was on the Mac. And there's our index.php file. As you can see, this process is quite fast and will get you set up on a local web server very quickly.